So I decided this morning to work on this fuel cell, tried to get this lined out a little bit. And what I've done is I ordered a sheet of 1/4 inch thick aluminum, and I cut my ring out the same size as this, inside hole and outside hole. So I've got my ring. It's not pretty. I cut it with a plasma cutter. I didn't have a hole saw big enough that I can locate, and I didn't trust anything else, so I just used my plasma cutter. And what I did is I just put this up on there, and I marked where I need to drill my holes, all 6 of them. So I've got a drill bit, but I can't find my tap. I think it's a 13/64. I believe. I have to look it back up and make sure, but that's the size that I need. That's the size hole I need to tap out for a 1/4-20 bolt. I think what I can do is remove this and remove this. Let's pull this ring off of here, and I'll show you. So I should be able to put that ring right there. I should be able to remove this and this, and I'm pretty sure these are AN8. So I've ordered some caps to go over that and just plug those. This is a rollover valve. So what this will do is upright gas vapors can go in and out freely, but if the vehicle was to get rolled over, there's a ball inside here. So the ball will then cap it off, and no fuel can come out of that hole. Just for a safety feature, basically. So I think I know I have to vent this tank. We're not going to run the charcoal canister. I take those off. It eliminates a whole lot of emissions if you remove the charcoal canister. So if you just had this venting into the atmosphere, you're going to be able to smell fuel whenever you get over close to your vehicle. So if I drill this, probably right here, and put this rollover vent in, and then come off of that with a rubber line, and come over here to the side, and you just want to make a loop. Just get the loop of rubber line close to the bottom and close to the top, and just make like 2 loops. And then I'm always scared of dirt daubers making a nest in there, so I will get a small filter, like for your lawnmower, like a fuel filter for your lawnmower, just something that goes in line, and you can stick that on there, and it will keep animals and stuff from getting in there. So that's my plan. And at this point, I'm going to remove this. This is the factory gas gauge for this tank, factory made gas tank gauge, and that's got the wrong ohm load. That's 0 to 90, but I think it's, when it's empty it'll show full, and when it's full it'll show empty on the Nissans. So I'm going to remove that, and that's why I'm running this factory sender. It'll have the in-tank pump and everything, so it'll be just like factory. So I'm going to drill these and look at cutting this hole out, and then I'll get back with you. Alright, so I got the factory level sender out of there, cut the hole. It just came right out real easy. So here is my ring. So I still have to clean the inside of this hole up. It's still a little trashy on the inside, and then I've got some actual trash in there I got to get out. But you have to cut that slot right there in order to slide this in. So you just do that, work it around, and then it's inside. So that's how you do that. And it just comes right back out. Anytime that you are grinding on aluminum, make sure to use a flap disc, because a regular hard grinding wheel will get embedded with the aluminum and it will explode. I've not had one explode on me, but I've heard of it happening, so make sure you don't do that. I don't want anybody to get hurt. And I'm going to angle my lines that direction, which puts my bolt closest to this edge right here. So I'm going to make sure whenever I do this, whenever I drill my tank, that I drill that hole right there next to this edge. So I guess now I can drill this. This is a quarter pipe thread, national pipe thread, a 1/4 inch. So I'm going to drill this, and then I can fit that, and I've got a pipe thread nut, should be in my mailbox. I'm going to get that out and put that together. And I have got some gasket material that is, I wanted rubber. This is not rubber, but it is fuel safe. I'll probably just go ahead and use this. So gotta have that. And I'll cut you back on a little bit. Alright, so I looked on my sending unit here. When it's in, my lines are going to be coming out this direction. So I decided to go a little bit further back with this hole, but I wanted it far enough away from that to where I could spin this. So I drilled a 7/16 hole. That's the hole that I need to be able to use a tap, a 1/4 national pipe thread tap. So I should be able to spin that in it clear and be out of the way of everything else as well. I'm about ready to drill these. Well, I've already drilled these. I'm about ready to tap them. I'll have to go to town and get a tap. It's only 6:30 in the morning, so I'll have to wait for people to open. It's Sunday morning, so I may have to get to this later today. Alright, so I've got this fitted in now. Whenever I put it down, I realized that it was sitting real close, so I pulled it all back apart. I put a washer just to gap that a little bit, and now I've screwed it back down. And since that's threaded now, it's really tight. But I went ahead and I went out to my mailbox, and this did come in the mail, so it's ready to go. I'm gonna put that on the underside and get that really tight. Make sure it just doesn't come loose, and then we can shorten this down to fit inside of the tank. So that'll be our next step. I've never done this with an aftermarket sending unit, so this has different kind of clamps than the factory. These clamps I'm gonna have to cut off, and then I'll have to get my length correct and then refit that up here. I just have to cut these clamps off, then cut the tube, move it all down. I'm gonna ignore this arm for right now. This is your low fuel light. It will tell you when you're almost out of fuel. The light comes on the dash. That's what that's for. You don't have to put that back. I'm gonna see if I can keep it on there. And so this is your return right here. So I'll have to cut it down as well. I'll probably just get a tape measure and measure how tall this tank is, and then I will bring it over here and mark. I'll just pull all this off and then mark it, and then start cutting on it and seeing if I can get it to fit. So I've got my pump and my level float and everything off, and I marked where my bottom of my tank is whenever I set this on. So now I'm going to take my grinder and knock this off, And keep in mind that you can always cut more, but you can't ever get it back. So you can cut that 2 or 3 times if you really want to. And then whenever I get that where I know it is where I need it, I will put this right on the bottom of the tank. I will mark where I need to cut this one, and I'll cut this rubber line where I can put a hose clamp right on the very end of that rubber. So I'll cut it about right there, put a hose clamp here, and then I'll cut this line and slide it on, tighten my hose clamp down, and it'll fit into the tank. And then I'll still have to modify this part, the float and all that stuff. So we'll see if we can get that right. Alright, so I have cut the feed line down, and with this all the way up, I actually had that fitted onto that tube, and it fit down into the tank right on the bottom, right where I wanted it. So now I have to try to figure out how to put this on, keep the float to work, make the float work. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut it right at the bottom here, at that, right level with that basically, and then I will have to trim right around this, just cut that off right there, and I think it'll fit. So we'll check it and see. Alright, so I was trying to put this together upside down, so I went back. Luckily I had a video and looked. So now I've got a B for bottom right there, and I know how I'm going to do it now. Got confused there for a minute. And then this long stem right here is going to have your black wires, and this one right here is green. I had to go back in my video and look at it too, so it's kind of a good thing that I'm doing these videos, I guess. And this fits down in there, and what I've decided to do is I'm going to just zip tie this together right here, and then I will have to come back and bend my float arm so that full is full and empty is empty on my gauge. What I've done here, I don't know if you can see, I have notched. So this isn't perfectly, it's elongated here, it's bigger. So I've notched this out to where this little button will fit fairly close to the end of the tank, the bottom of the tank there. And I'll just use a stainless steel zip tie for that. This looks like it gets fluid up inside, and the fluid makes contact, and then this will then have flow going through it, probably negative because you don't want to spark. But once that reads a continuity using the fuel in it, so I think as long as nothing gets in there, I should be okay. So I should be able to zip tie this with a stainless steel zip tie right there in the little cutout that I've made. So I'm just gonna get some zip ties and put this together. Alright, I went to town and I got a brand new case of taps and dies from Harbor Freight. They're better ones. We'll see how good they are. It was a pretty good adventure. My wife let me drive her Trans Am, so kind of what I needed today. Little adventure. Nothing like driving a nice car. So I'm going to tap these holes 1/4 and I'm also going to tap these holes 1/4. I've got some stainless steel bolts somewhere. I'll have to locate those. And then what I'll do is I'll bolt everything from the underside, and I'll have the bolt sticking out of the top right here. And then whenever I slide this down, I'll have to drill these out to 1/4 inch maybe just a hair bigger, and then use a washer and a nut, and that will fit down tight. And I will also form this gasket, so I'll see what I can get done here. Alright, since I used a 1/4-inch plate inside here, it's going to pull the top of this flat, so that'll work really nice. Whenever I put this on it, it'll all pull down super tight, super flat. I'll have this gasket right there. What I'm going to do is just line this gasket up and mark where these holes are going to be, and I'll use my little razor blade and knock out the holes. And then once I fit that on top of the gasket, I can go ahead and cut out my outside, make it look a lot better than that. And I may have to redo this neck, but I'm going to wait to do that. It may have to come out at a 45-degree angle. I won't really know until the body's fitted, but most likely that's not going to work. I might be able to weld on this and save myself some money. I think the necks of these, the 45-degree necks, are like $65. It's kind of ridiculous, so I'll see what I can do about that. I still got to put zip ties on that, but should be pretty easy. So I'm putting vice grips right here and pulling it tight, and then because I've got this underside threaded and the top threaded, I want to pull that in real tight. That way whenever I put the bolt through, it won't be fighting the two threads. It'll already be pulled tight when the threads go through, so it won't have to pull and screw up one of the threads. So that's what we got. And alright, I'll cut you back on. Alright, so I've got all of this fitted. I couldn't find my stainless steel zip ties, so I used this little aluminum rod. It's really easy to bend around, and I just bent that around the bottom, which also went around the low fuel sender for the light, and I went around the top up here and tucked my wires around the little ends there. I got a hose clamp up here. It's ready to go. So at this point, what I'm going to have to do is get this float to be all the way down to the bottom of this instead of way down here, and then when it's full it'll be up here. So I'm just going to get my little pliers here. These are just some welding pliers, and I'm going to start bending on this rod and see if I can make it work. If not, I'll have to cut it and weld it, but I'd rather not weld it. Let me see if I can just bend it around. I'll get back with you. Alright, so I have got this, I believe, where it'll work. So that will be empty, and on full it will be up here, and that's pretty close to the top. It may not be perfect, but it'll be very, very close. Full might actually be just a hair below, but empty should read pretty accurate, and I am okay with that. It's kind of a cobbled up, bent around mess, but so we'll get that in there. And I still have to drill those out. I forgot to do that. So I will drill those out, and then this will be completely ready to bolt on, ready to go. You'll want to make sure that you get inside your tank really clean so you don't suck any of that up into your engine. So I've wet these towels and I've cleaned out a whole lot. Then I took some clean towels, dry, and wiped, and I felt with my hand, everything felt good. So now I can fit our sender down. All we got to do now is bolt it in and then trim around so that you have a new gasket. Alright, so there is the finished product. All I got to do is wait on my caps to come in the mail and cap this off, and then put a rubber line here, make some little circles, and on top I can zip tie maybe to that a little filter like you would use on your lawnmower, like a little inline fuel filter, and then modify that as needed. And here is my bracket. I'm still working on this. This is 14 gauge steel. I'm gonna have it bolt in under here. I'm gonna have it bolt in under here, and then under this brace right there. Bolt in. I'm gonna wait till I flip the frame over and figure out my bolt points on that. I hand bent these. It's kind of a pain. And then I put some 3/4 inch square tubing and some angle iron along the edge. This is going to be like a skid plate and bracket. And to keep you from laying on something, denting your tank, keep you from throwing sparks dragging through your tank. And I will probably end up putting another little bracket like this just on each end right here. So 17 gallons of gas, roughly 6 pounds per gallon. I think that's like 102 pounds. I figured it on my calculator. So these will have to hold like not very much weight, even hitting bumps, maybe 20 pounds a piece. So should be really good. Maybe a 3/8 bolt. Alright, so till next time, I'm going to try to put some shock absorbers up here and then build my engine. I'm waiting on a clutch so that I can just fit everything together and then get it in here and finish building all this, put a drive shaft in, put a carrier bearing mount. So that'll probably be on a new video. I'll probably just go ahead and wrap this video here and be done with it. So frame's looking pretty good. It's still rusty, but it's looking way better. We're getting there. Won't be long now. Alright, so do whatever you want, like, whatever. So talk to you later.